All right. Well, happy NBA regular season week to everybody out there. It is officially the start of the NBA season this week, beginning Tuesday night in Oklahoma City, where I am just basically imprisoned in this hotel room. If you're watching this on YouTube, it is very dark in this room. I've been in Oklahoma City since Friday. I have eaten a lot of red meat. I have drank a lot of whiskey, and I am here to watch Oklahoma City get their championship rings on Tuesday when they take on Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets. As always, Rachel Nichols, Fox Sports 1, Fox Sports should say, All the Smoke, Monumental Sports Network, and many, many, many other things with me here. Are you going to the Laker game on Tuesday?
I'm going
Rachel?
to the second part of that doubleheader, Lakers-Warriors. Apparently, I don't need to be in witness protection like you are for people who are just listening in their cars or whatever and not watching. It's very dark where Chris is. He's like mostly in shadow.
It's very dark. I don't know why. I don't know why this room is as dark as it is. I have pretty much every light on here at the moment, and none of it's really making much of a difference. But we soldier on. We soldier through.
Chris. With your whiskey and steak. I know it's rough.
Yes. I'm honestly, I can't. I'm supposed to go out. We're recording this on Monday night. I'm supposed to go out tonight with some people. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I could put another piece of red meat into my system. I don't think I could put any more whiskey into my system. I wrote in my newsletter last week that I'd be at Mahogany every night, and I have been at Mahogany every night. I've been there, enjoying. I had a little bit of bison this weekend. That was an interesting first try at that, but I've been enjoying the
opinion.
I'm gonna stick with strip steak.
Cow.
I'm gonna stick with cow and the traditional meats that you get at steakhouse. But it was worth a try. Good people at Mahogany, always worth a visit over there. We'll talk a little bit about Oklahoma City on this episode. I've been talking to people a lot out there over the last couple of days. Philadelphia, are we optimistic about the 76ers? Once again, we're going to get into that. But the prime reason for recording today, Rachel, is that it is extension day in the NBA, where we have the deadline, which was 5 p.m. Eastern time this afternoon, to extend a whole bunch of guys across the league that were extension eligible right now. And we saw some extensions, get done over the last 24, 48 hours. Most notably, Kevin Durant gets a 2-year, $90 million deal with Houston. The second year of that deal, a player option. So basically, Kevin Durant is locked in for at least the next 2 years with the Houston Rockets. The Portland Trailblazers signed a couple of guys. You got Christian Brown locked up in Denver. But let's start with Durant. It was widely expected that a deal was going to get done with Kevin. I spent some time with him a couple of weeks ago down in Houston. He made it clear that this wasn't just where he wanted to be right now. He wanted to be there long term. And you know how these deals work. Like, Kevin Durant is not traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets unless they have a pretty good idea of what it's going to take to sign him to a long-term deal. So he gets a deal done. He's going to be paid $45 million over the 2 years of that deal. And for Houston, it's $30 million less than what he could have received on a 2-year max contract. So it gives them some flexibility to make some other deals down the road. So what did you think of the deal that Durant got with the Rockets?
I mean, look, first of all, as we discuss all these extensions, it's just clearer every year that there has never been a time in the NBA where who is in your front office has made more of a difference. And I know we know that, and anyone who follows the league really closely knows that. But I think there are fans out there who feel like, oh, we've got a star player, we're good. And there's just so much cap gymnastics and multiple aprons of the CBA and all of the things that who you have having these discussions, whether they prioritize giving you a good bench, how they work contracts with their big stars, it is critical to have someone who knows what they're doing there so that the team can go beat the team that these fans see out on the floor. And, look, Houston is an example of that. Not only did they get Durant to sign for $30 million less than he could have signed or could have demanded. I mean, they did the same thing with Sengun a year ago, right? They got him to take a discount. So I think the fact that this front office has gotten these players to believe like, hey, we're all in it for each other, sacrifice a little here. We can build the team and give you, a brighter future. And obviously that conversation with Kevin Durant is a lot easier because he's still making, hundreds he's made what over his career? I think with this
almost $600 million. Yeah.
Right. And I'm looking because I want to see the exact number. With this contract, he becomes the record holder for the highest career earnings in NBA history, $598 million, which surpasses LeBron because LeBron doesn't have a contract past this year. So Durant's is taking into account next year as well. But it's easier to make that argument to your players when they have $600 million in contracts behind them. But that being said, look, Golden State played Jimmy Butler the max. San Antonio, they paid De'Aaron Fox the max. So I think that it speaks well of Durant that he understands what it takes to win in today's NBA. He really is in it, as he told you. He's, putting his money where his mouth is, literally. And it speaks to the front office here that they are able to get these guys to do this and that they're willing to negotiate with these guys as opposed to what seems like in some places the auto stamp max.
Yeah. It's notable to me that Rafael Stone, the GM in Houston, has been very disciplined when it comes to all things Kevin Durant. The Rockets could have acquired Durant at the trade deadline last year. There was an opening for them to do that. But the Rockets weren't willing to sweeten their offer any more than what they had already put on the table. And, Rafael Stone never really came off that. And being able to, hold your ground and only give up a certain amount of assets has positioned them to be a player in future trades. Like they still have some capital from the Phoenix Suns. They still have some other draft picks. They still have some young players. Cap space, but like equally as important, like you've still got guys like, they're not talking about it now, but Sengun, if they wanted to trade him, is a manageable deal, especially how he's playing. Jabari Smith is a tradable contract as well. Like they've got pieces that they can move if they want to go superstar hunting for one more guy. So Rafael Stone was disciplined there, and he was clearly disciplined here. Now, I do think that Durant and the Rockets front office were probably largely on the same page with what he was going to get. I don't think Durant expected to get 2 years, $120 at this stage of his career. And look, Durant, one of the things he told me when I was down there was like one of the most frustrating aspects of being in Phoenix the last 2 years was there wasn't any margin for error with those teams. Like he wanted to have a roster that allowed him to have an off night and to not have to carry the team every single night. So by taking a little bit less money, it frees them up to do that, to make the kind of deals that they need to make there. So look, it's still, ultimately it's really a 1-year deal for Durant. Like he can opt out after the first year of that extension and renegotiate a whole new deal that might pay him more money. Who knows? Who knows what Kevin Durant's going to be at his age 39 season. But he has some flexibility.
It feels like this deal is for the next 2 years, doesn't it?
Could be. I mean, look, if he's still playing like Kevin Durant, and I do think his game's going to age pretty well, they might decide to tear up that last year of that contract, give him a new 2-year deal, just keep extending off of that. He's never going to get like a 4-year deal or a 3-year deal even, but I can see him going along that path. So I think it's a good deal for Durant. It's a great deal as a team for the Rockets. It is notable to me though that Houston was not able to get a deal done with Tari Eason before the deadline. And I'm not all that surprised about that either, because, Tari Eason had kind of an uneven season last year, and he's coming into this year expecting to play a much bigger role. Like, when I talked to Tari Eason, he talked a lot about assuming that Dylan Brooks role, the physical defensive guy. He's coming off the bench, but he's going to get an opportunity to play a lot of minutes with this team. If Tari Eason has the kind of year that he believes he's capable of, my guess is that he is going to outplay whatever contract the Rockets want to tie him to. So I know it was disappointing for Houston to not get Tari Eason locked in, but I can see it from Eason's perspective. I think he believes he's going to have a big year, and that's going to lead to a much better deal.
Yeah, no, I agree. And he's betting on himself, and we've seen that work in the NBA. So I think as the cap keeps rising, that's a smart play by him. I want to double back to one thing you said about Durant. You said Durant at this stage of his career could reasonably expect a $120 million contract. I don't know. This man is aging so well. He shot an NBA best, 50% on jumpers last season, 53% on mid-range shots, right? And he also has best shooting percentage on off of the dribble jumpers entire NBA. So this is a guy who is still performing at such an elite level. I think he could have been Rockets said, yeah, give me the 120 million. I want the same max deal that Jimmy Butler got. I want the same max deal that, that De'Aaron Fox got, whatever our version is with the number of years. And he didn't. And I just think that's notable. And I think it's notable on Rafael Stone's part to be able to sort of have that buy-in from Durant. I think it's notable on Durant's part to sort of have that buy-in himself. And I don't know, I'm very curious with this team. Obviously, they took such a with Van Vliet, but the more you talk to people around there, the more they believe they are still as in it as they were before.
Yeah, I guess more my point was I think Durant knew with the Rockets he wasn't going to get there because I do think there was some back channeling before. I mean, Durant. I mean, hell,
in the end,
had to watch.
I
just had to watch that starting five documentary where Durant was talking about what Phoenix was trying to do and the teams he was talking to. Like he controlled that situation pretty well, and I'm absolutely sure that the parameters were set when it came to Durant at a long-term deal with the Rockets. And by the way, I've been saying for weeks now that the Rockets were not going to miss Fred VanVleet, that they weren't going to miss him.
Yes.
I'm sorry. And now here we are with Houston. Before we move on from the Rockets, let's discuss this, who are going to go into opening night with what has to be the biggest lineup in NBA history.
Yes.
Like you have got Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun, two basically 7-footers. You've got Jabari Smith at 6'11" at 3. Kevin Durant at probably 7 feet, even though he doesn't like to call himself that.
Let's be honest, 7 feet.
Is sitting there at 2 guard. And 6'7" Amen Thompson, who has been solid at that point guard spot, he is going to be your starting playmaker. That is, in a league that has been trending small in recent years, all of a sudden, this is a big-time zag by the Rockets. What do you think of this decision to go plus size in Houston?
I'm not sure it's been trending small in recent years. It was certainly trending small for a very long time. But I do feel we've seen some tall lineups win the day around the NBA. And I wasn't shocked to see them taking this tack, especially the Van Vliet injury forced their hand. Amen Thompson is going to have a much bigger role and sort of they're trusting him to be able to grow into it. I love it. I'd love to see these aren't big guys. They're big athletic guys. And that's really where sort of the change has come, is that there's still a bias in the NBA. Like, oh, big guys, they're not as athletic. The little guys, the Steph Currys of the world dribble around them. These are athletic guys. And I'm very interested to see with this kind of lineup, how they do.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I mean, they're playing a team that's going to play big on opening night. I mean, you're going to have Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren out there to match up with Sengun and Adams. I do think there's going to be some quickness issues, especially at those 2-3 slots. And look, you're right that we've seen Minnesota play big in recent years. New York, when Mitchell Robinson is healthy, will play big. But look, Boston won its championship with Porzingis at the 5 and Tatum Brown at the wings. The Nuggets have been great with Jokic playing with Aaron Gordon. So it's a lot of times it's a more athletic kind of 3-4 hybrid wing that has been successful. But the Rockets, they just want to beat you up. That's what they do. And Durant, it's interesting. Like Durant, one of the things he said that I published in my story was that he was frustrated in Phoenix by playing so many small lineups. I think his phrase was, our best lineup was me and a bunch of guys that were 6'5" and smaller. So now he gets the chance to play 2 guard, which he probably hasn't played since his rookie year, when like PJ Carlissimo was experimenting with it. So he's going to get the opportunity to play with other big men. I think that's going to be interesting for him to be in that role. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back. And Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. This week on Underdog, I am going higher on Kevin Durant scoring. I think Durant is going to come out guns blazing in his first week in Oklahoma City and put up some ridiculous stats early on. And I'm going to go lower on Jaylen Brown scoring. There's a lot of anticipation for Jaylen Brown having a great year. I think he will. But I think early on, there might be an adjustment to Jaylen Brown taking on that lead scorer role. He's going to get a lot of the attention that Jason Tatum received on the defensive end. I think there'll be a little bit of an adjustment for that for Jaylen Brown. But he's going to have a great year as well. So download the app today and use promo code OPENFLOOR to score $100 in bonus funds or bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code OPENFLOOR.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
As far as the other extensions go, nothing really surprised me all that much. Christian Braun, I thought that was a good deal. Like $125 million for Christian Braun. Like, Christian Braun's a really good player who just gets better every single year. The two guys in Houston or in Portland, Shaedon Sharpe, Toumani Camara, good young players, reasonable deals. Maybe you can say Camara, did they overpay for a guy that's been mostly one-dimensional, even though he's a great defensive player? But there's a lot of room for growth with these guys. And I think both of them are probably going to be, outplaying their contracts by the time we're at the end of it. And the salary cap has risen even more. Any of these other extensions that we saw Sunday, Monday stand out to you?
Look, I really like the Christian Braun re-signing. I think that, this is a guy who helps Nikola Jokic in a way no one else on that floor does. He's so good in transition, led the NBA in fast points. I just think he adds another dimension to that starting five. Part of the problem last year was, and by the way, he's durable. I think he played 79 games last season.
Yep.
But there was still a problem last year because they didn't replace him on the bench. And eventually there was a front office change in Denver. And the guys who are leading the office now, there is a real move to view, obviously, that they've restocked it with Brown coming back, but also to make sure that their big pieces are there and they're not going to cost them down the road. And this is a little bit more of what I was talking about you have front office playing on different levels from each other. So if Christian Braun hadn't been extended, then they could have gotten into an offer sheet situation with him down the road. And that would have been a disaster for them in terms of what else they put on the floor around Jokic. So I just think it was a smart move on both sides. I really enjoy watching Braun play. He's also a great kid to talk to. He's really have a sense of where he is in the moment and all of that. And I was very happy to see it. I am not, I've never lived in Denver. I'm not a Denver fan in any way, but Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. And as an NBA fan, I want to see him have the team around him where he's able to play, as complete basketball as he can, as opposed to dragging his team kicking and screaming through the season like last year. So I'm happy to see all of these signings and just sort of the way the Denver Nuggets front office is operating. And I felt like the Brown signing was just yet another one.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets are going to be really interesting to watch. I saw them play, or at least a zombie version of them play on Friday in Oklahoma City. And I talked to a bunch of people within the team. And look, Bruce Brown just plays well in Denver. He knows how to play opposite Jokic. So whatever he's done the last couple of years, I kind of throw out. I expect him to be the guy that we saw during their championship season. I do think that Tim Hardaway Jr., who was not great shooting the ball in the preseason, I think as long as he's making corner threes at a reasonable rate, they're going to get the value they're looking for out of him. Like he was a cheap contract that they signed. And I think if he can give them 20-ish minutes per night as a second, third wing off the bench, that's what they need. The wild card for them, though, is going to be how Cam Johnson fits in. Like, Cam Johnson statistically did not have a good preseason. I know he had some, his playmaking was pretty good, especially in that finale against the Thunder, but his shots were, outside of one game really weren't falling. So, and when I asked David Adelman about this, some other people, like the things they're happy with, the playmaking, especially with Cam, but they understand that a guy coming in to a team that has had, at least three of those guys playing together for like the last 5 or 6 years, if not longer, a whole bunch of guys that are used to the kind of chemistry they have with each other. There's going to be some adjustment. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how quickly Cam Johnson fits into that mix. They want him to be aggressive. They want him playing freely, but if you're Cam Johnson, you're coming from a Brooklyn situation where you can do whatever the hell you want. Now you're going to a team that needs you to fit into a role. Like Michael Porter Jr., say whatever you want about him. He fit the role. They won a championship with Michael Porter Jr. playing that wing. Like, I think it seemed to me at times like Cam Johnson has been pressing when it's come to his shot, maybe rushing some of these shots. How quickly he settles in, I think is going to be big for Denver. I think he will settle in, but it might take him a few weeks, a month into the season to ultimately do it.
I don't think we, as the sort of NBA machine, take into account how difficult it is for these players to just hit the ground running, find their niche with a new team. Kevin Durant is such a part because he literally fits with everyone, but we have seen it with other players. We saw it with Mikal Bridges in New York last year. We've seen it with guys who, Damian Lillard, when he first got to Milwaukee. It is a physical change. You are in a new house and with new places, and you don't quite know the highway. You don't quite know where to order from to get food, and you don't want all those things. That just sort of influences your overall comfort level. And then more importantly, on the court, you are, as you point out, especially Denver, adjusting to guys who can, sort of know what each other is going to do before they even, know themselves. And to fit into that, both in terms of the locker room where you don't want to make any waves, and then on the court where you want to just do the right thing and not let Nikola Jokic down. He's the best player in the NBA. I think we need to give these guys a couple months, even into the season, guys who are in Cam's position, because they're human beings. And I think that just because the trade happened a while ago in our minds, and we're sort of like, great, he should be, up and running. I just think that more often than not, it doesn't work that way. And I'm more interested in what he's doing, in late December than I am what he's doing this week.
Yeah. And as loaded as the Western Conference is, I still think we're barreling towards that Nuggets Thunder conference finals. I still think they're 1-2 in the Western Conference. I mean, I've been at Thunder practices over the last few days. And look, Oklahoma City, they're going to avoid a headline at all costs. They're not going to sound bullish or optimistic about their chances to repeat, the first repeat champion since 2018. But they are very happy with the mindset this team came in. Like, one thing Mark Dagnall told me this weekend was the thing he was most happy about early was that these guys came in shape. Like, nobody, there was no, like, look, they're not hard partiers anyway. We know that based on the lack of
These guys
celebration.
barely drank any champagne when they won the title.
But, like, none of them, like, kind of just took the summer off. Like, they all took whatever time off they needed to and got back to work. That includes Shea. Like, they still think Shea has another level that he can get to. I'm not sure what that level is for a guy that averaged 30 plus, won MVP, and led the team to a championship, but they think there's still more to grow. And like we talk about this all the time, but like the room for organic growth is so huge. Like Chet Holmgren's never going to be like Dwight Howard, but he's bigger. Like he's definitely bigger. He's definitely stronger. And when I talk to people that worked out with Chet this summer, like they're expecting like a 20 point, 10 rebound, 4 block average type of season for Chet Holmgren. If they can get that out of him and get more minutes from him at center against some of these teams that they're playing, maybe it's not 68 wins, but it's like 64 or 65 because look, Jalen Williams is banged up right now, but he's going to find his way back onto the court, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like we've said this year after year, like the Nuggets, they could be a dynasty. The Celtics, they could be a dynasty. But like this Oklahoma City team, because of its continuity, because of its depth, because of its room for organic growth, I think they're well equipped to do exactly what they did last season.
Your point about them coming back from the offseason, not sort of loaded ex-champs, like, oh, we're resting on our laurels. That is part of the advantage. In addition to, I absolutely believe those particular players are hardworking guys who know the value of coming in, high. I also think that when you have guys who are largely in their early 20s, you have a much higher chance of getting that condition in. I don't know if you can remember all the way back to your early 20s, Chris, but you could eat a lot differently.
Kind of blurry.
Exercise a little bit less and still have great results. Not encumbered, most of these guys. Some of them obviously have kids and partners, but not all of them, to distract them and sort of take their attention away or obligations. So the idea that you have a team that's as young as this team is, that is already seasoned with championship experience, I just physically and mentally, they are more primed to come into the next season in better shape than a lot of ex-champions because of just how young the team is. And I'm
yeah, they're going to be tough. And look, they're going to get Topic back at some point. They're excited about what he can bring to the table. They're once again going to be 10 guys deep with like legitimate guys that should be top 6 players on most teams in the NBA. So it's it's going to be interesting to watch. I think they're going to come out of the gate fast this season, and I think we're once again going to be talking about them as the front runner to win the whole thing. Last thing, the Philadelphia 76ers. The pendulum keeps swinging back and forth with the 76ers. Like before training camp, I'm like, you know what? Joel Embiid, they're posting these workout videos. I think he's going to be back. It's going to be a great season in Philadelphia. Then I show up at media day and Embiid is on no definite timeline. Paul George is still out. Jared McCain's got a thumb injury. So I'm down the 76ers. And then in the last preseason game, Joel Embiid not only plays, but he plays well.
Looks great. Yeah.
He looks great for them. He looks like he's back fully healthy. Paul George may not be ready for the opener, but he's doing 5-on-5 once again, so he can't be that far behind. I'm jumping back on the bandwagon. I know I've been jumping on and off the Philadelphia 76ers bandwagon, but I'm jumping back on the bandwagon. If Joel Embiid can give them 30 minutes a night playing the way he played in that preseason finale, it's not that everything else doesn't matter, but he's the head of the snake. Like, if he can be that dominant on both ends of the floor, they're going to win a lot of games, especially in that Eastern Conference. I had this conversation with the coach. He's like, look, if Joel Embiid looks like that, they're the favorites to win the East. Like, the favorites, not a favorite, the favorite to win the East. So I'm bullish on what I saw from Embiid. What do you think?
First of all, welcome back to the bandwagon, because I have been saying that sentence you just said for quite some time. I think that they are, if everyone's healthy, and we just have to caveat every single discussion about the Sixers with this, but if everyone's healthy, I think they are much more of a threat to the top of the East than anybody is giving them credit for. I'm not surprised that at media day, they toned down the expectations for Embiid. One of the things we've been talking about over the last month or so is that the two challenges with Joel are A, keeping him healthy enough physically to be on the court and be the powerhouse that we know he can be, and B, mentally get him into a place where the weight of expectations isn't taking a toll and sort of influencing whether he plays or not on a given night. He is someone who is, he's endured so much criticism over the years for so many things, and you could just see the hesitancy last year in terms of, what if I go out and play like crap? What is that going to do? What if I go out and injure myself again? What is that going to do? And he's got to get past those hurdles this season. So I think keeping the expectations low. I don't know. On media day, we'll see how he goes. Keeping the expectations low as a team. I know a lot of people aren't predicting them to even be in the top 4. And to them, those people, I would say, remember the Indiana Pacers? It's not always going to work out exactly with chalk as you expect. But of course, look, the bandwagon moves on as long as it's got wheels. And if Embiid doesn't play, then the wheels fall off. And then we're all sitting there, stuck by the side of the road. But then I'm in, because I just think that the vision of what this team could be still exists. And I love their young players. I think that these guys are athletic. They're speedy. I've been high on VJ Edgecombe since the moment they drafted him. You scorned me for that, but I've been proven right so far. That, I think Maxey, is in great shape and is going to look great this year. And you just have less teams that are going to beat up on you on a nightly basis in the East. And I think they just have a tremendous amount of potential as long as the wheel stays on.
Yeah. Maxey is outstanding playing opposite Embiid. You're right. VJ Edgecombe has been a lot better early than I thought he was going to be. That athleticism, the athleticism is real. Like that's real. And I think he's bought completely into what they want him to do. And he's going to be a part of their rotation this year. We'll see what they get out of Paul George. I'm going to choose to be optimistic that Paul George can rediscover like 75-80% of the all-star that he was in Philadelphia. He's going to have to adapt. I mean, and look, he's going to play a lot more 4 this year in that lineup, but he's going to have to really embrace that like he said he would at media day. But I'm watching Embiid out there, and he's leading breaks, like he's catching the ball off the rim and he's running the floor. That's not the kind of thing we were seeing from him at any point during last season. And look, he's going to miss back-to-backs. He's not going to play the 3 and 4 nights. But if they can get 60-ish games from him and have him healthy going into the playoffs, who are they afraid of? Like, are they afraid of Philadelphia or of Cleveland? No. Are they afraid of Orlando? Probably not. I mean, New York? No, they can beat anybody with that group. So I didn't expect Embiid to be back for that preseason finale, but not only him coming back, but playing like that was outstanding. That was a sight to see for, yeah.
A question about that. How do you think the Bob Myers addition is going to impact the Sixers? We heard earlier this week that Bob Myers leaving his TV gig, going to work for Josh Harris, and not just for the Sixers specifically, but, overseeing the soccer team in Europe and overseeing the football team, in Washington, but definitely the basketball team in Philadelphia. He will sort of have some purvey over all of those teams. Do you think Bob Myers being in the mix, who's just a good, team builder and just sort of, eases the tension down. He knows how to walk into a room and make everyone comfortable. Do you think that will have a direct impact on the Sixers season, or do you think he's going to be so far above all of that it won't really make an impact?
Yeah, it's hard to say because, like you said, Bob's not overseeing the day-to-day of the 76ers. In fact, that, I think, is the last thing that Bob Myers wants to do, is to have anything to do with a traditional GM job ever again. And like he has made so much money over the last couple of years, like first advising the Commanders on the coaching hire. Now he's in the Josh Harris C-suite, advising on a whole bunch of other different things. I don't know enough about the role yet to say anything definitive. Like, is he even going to leave California? Like, is he just going to kind of run things from, his living room? I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. I do think it does increase the pressure on Daryl Morey. It turns the heat up a little bit on him, not because Bob's going to replace him, but Bob could advise somebody else to replace him. He could see that somebody else takes that job, somebody that he's more familiar with. So it does put a little more pressure on the front office in Philadelphia to have a productive year. But I mean, his oversight is so vast with this group that, and I'm sure Josh Harris will want him more involved in the basketball stuff than say like hockey or whatever else he's got his hand in. But I think it's more about if this team scuffles, do you have to have Bob, advise on a tough decision you have to make, whether it's coaching, front office, something like that. But right now, I mean, you got no reason but to be optimistic about Philadelphia. Like what you've seen in the preseason makes you at least believe that they can rediscover some of that magic we thought they were going to have last year. So
welcome back.
I'm back, baby. I'm back on the bandwagon. All right, Rachel, we're keeping it.
No. Wait. No. I have one more question for you, Chris Mannix, about your hometown Boston Celtics. What the hell is going on with quotes coming out of
sent
Boston
me this text, yes,
about Joe Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown discussing who would win in a fight, and then eventually that discussion went down to I would kill him, and if you're going to kill me, I'm taking you with me. Please explain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Joe's crazy. I think that goes without saying. Like I see a lot of teams out there now. Like I think Denver did it, and I think others have talked about it, like mimicking the players versus coaches thing that Joe did. Yeah. But like these teams are doing it in like a lighthearted manner. Like Joe wanted to like metaphorically assassinate the media. Like he wanted to put a beating on them. He just he wanted to embarrass them. Like Joe's also like he's I don't want to say a black belt, but he's got a lot of martial arts experience. And I firmly believe that like if Joe were losing a fight to Jaylen Brown and they were fighting like near a cliff, Joe would drag Jaylen off the cliff with him. Like I do believe that's I
mean, he said as much.
I think it's I believe him. I think Jaylen who's intense in his own right is probably speaking some truth, but I think Jaylen is sort of having a bit of a laugh. Like I think Joe's having a bit of a laugh at some of that stuff. Like I think and I've said this to people before. Somebody asked about this today. Like Joe is very much like he's definitely lighter off camera, but he's still kind of the same largely intense guy away from media settings. Like Tom Thibodeau's been making the rounds the last, week or 2 weeks, wherever he's been. He's in Oklahoma City. I saw him at the Thunder preseason finale. I'm like, Tibbs, what are you doing here, man? You got to find something better to do with your time. But he's in Boston. Tibbs, as you know, is very different off camera than he is on. Like he's much more gregarious off camera. He's lighter. Yep. He loves a good gossip sometimes. He loves to kind of chat things up about the league. Joe's not really like that. He's definitely got a little bit of a different personality off camera, but like he's what he says he means. Like he's intense pretty much all the time. So it's that's a long way of saying like I do believe Joe when he says he would take Jaylen with him. if they were fighting.
Look, I really like Joe. I've known him since he was in college. He was covering the NCAA tournament for CBS. I don't know if part of that intensity is just that, he was an unlikely guy to end up being the head coach of the Boston Celtics at the age he ended up being the head coach of the Boston Celtics. So it takes that kind of intensity to reach that phase. But I just every day of the last, 4 days, there's a new quote coming out about what Jaylen Brown and Joe Mazzulla would do to each other in a fight. And I got to say, maybe it's just that everybody's desperate for the season to start and we need filler. But I haven't ever heard that coming out of a team between the coach and what is this year, because Tatum isn't there, his star player.
Just to put a button on Boston, like I have a lot of people ask me all the time about the Celtics because of my history,
your heritage,
with them and my heritage there, and how much time I spend around there.
Yeah.
I've been less optimistic about their chances for success. But like a lot of people. Yeah, I'm pessimistic.
Negativist of negativeness, Nellies.
I mean, look, they're not going to be like Washington bad, but I don't see them competing for a top 4 spot in the conference. But there are people I respect just tell me all the time, like, don't count them out. Like, in part because they believe in Jaylen being really good. They think Peyton Pritchard is going to have a great year, even better than last year. Derek White is still Derek White, but that the sort of intangibles of like, it's tough to knock the winning out of a winner. It's like this has been a winning team for years. A conference finalist or bust team for most of the Brown, Tatum, White, Pritchard, Hauser era. That like this team is not going to go quietly into the night. I still think their lack of talent is going to cost them, especially in that front court. Like Xavier Tillman and Namus Key. Those are guys that weren't even playing for this team last year. And, Chris Boucher, part of that mix. I just think eventually talent will catch up with you. But, a lot of people have been saying, like, don't count them out. And, more people that I trust, continue to say, like, they think Tatum's going to try to come back. Like, to me, it's a believe it if I see it. But, like, where Tatum is right now physically and the position the Celtics could be in a conference that's so average. Like if Tatum is cleared by doctors around the All-Star break, I'm, by the way, making that up. Do not aggregate me for anything like that. But if he is cleared by doctors around the All-Star break and the Celtics are like the 4-5 seed, even 6, does he try then? Like, I guess it depends to me how early he can get physically cleared to go out there and play. Like if it's mid-March, you'd be crazy to bring him back. Like you don't drop him into an intense playoff situation with like a month to go in the season. But if he can get a full second half post All-Star break, I mean, I know there are people I trust that are like, he's going to try. Like he's absolutely positively going to try.
I don't think there's any doubt he's going to try. Any doubt. First of all, any player wants to stop being injured and get back on the court. Rehab is lonely. It's intense, especially from that injury. It's annoying. You want to be with your teammates. You want to be going out there and sort of proving that you're still your old self. I have zero doubts that Jason Tatum will try back. My question is more of what will the Celtics let him do?
Yeah.
Because teams are often in the position of saving these guys from themselves. And Jason Tatum, is such an incredible asset, not just, in the short term, but in the long term to the Celtics franchise. We saw, I'm not saying Thompson came back too early, but we saw Klay Thompson lose 2 seasons to back-to-back major injuries. Like you just want to make sure that the guy is not coming back just because he's desperate to get off, this injured hamster wheel and because he really is ready. And I think that, to me, is going to be the bigger part of the equation in the second half of the season with Tatum and the Celtics. I have zero doubt that Jason is going to go to them and say, I'm ready. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd just be nervous. I guess, the timing matters. Like, if you can give him a 2-month ramp up to get to the playoffs, that's one thing. But if it's less than a month, that should be absolutely the cutoff. You cannot drop him back into an intense situation. That's how bad things happen. And you're gearing up for another run in 26, 27 when the East could be even worse. Giannis could be gone next year to a non-Eastern Conference team. So there's a lot that can happen over the next 12 months. But just one last thing on injuries. The tweet of the day on Monday, Bobby Marks, who tweeted out that the Memphis Grizzlies have already qualified for a disabled player exemption. We have not played one game yet in the Grizzlies schedule, and they have qualified for a disabled player exception. Ja Morant is down. Ty Jerome just went down. Scottie Pippen Jr. just went down. They could start the season with no point guards, and they're qualifying for a DP. Like already Zach Edey's out for a while.
Yep.
This team, I guess there's some things that are fluky, but if you're Memphis, like you look at your medical staff at some point and be like, guys, what is going on here? Like, how is this continuing to happen to us year after year? That is a huge problem in Memphis. And you're talking about a DPE in early and mid-October. Come on. That was crazy. The Memphis injury report, as I tweeted out, mid-season form for the Memphis injury report.
But your point is accurate there. It's been years of this, right? Mid-season form, it's been years of this. That Pippen Jr. injury, by the way, I don't think he's going to be back till February. Like this is a long-term injury. A couple of the other guys there have longer-term injuries. I don't know if they're just going to tank the season. You know, obviously the fact that I'm even having that discussion with a team that considered itself competitive as of 2 weeks ago is kind of unbelievable. We know who the intentional tankers are. We did not count them as one of them. I don't know what's going to happen there. Sometimes medical staffs get blamed for things that aren't their fault, and you just want to make a change to make a change. And I'm curious whether that's going to happen here, because some things can be fluke injuries or stuff that you can't prepare for. But at some point, if there is such a just tidal wave of injuries year after year after year, I don't know if Zach, I don't know if they're going to say, look, at some point, just clear the decks. Let's get a new people in here with a new perspective.
So you're right. Some of these injuries, like the Pippen injury, was weird. Like that, I never even heard of that before. That kind of foot injury where I guess they have to remove a piece of bone and do something down there. I don't know. It's just weird. But there's been a lot of calf strains, hamstring, whatever over the years.
Yes.
That's the kind of stuff that should be preventable on some level. All right, Rachel, we'll keep it relatively short today, as when you're talking about contract extensions, it's a slow news day in the NBA. But we're back. The NBA season underway Tuesday night. I'll be in Oklahoma, probably eating meat. You'll be in LA, probably eating ice cream in the press room. I don't know what goes on in that Laker press room, but enjoy the opening night down there in Los Angeles.
Thank you, friends. See you soon.